So what's going on, guys? My name's Ash and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel today. Today I'm going to be giving you my review of the FIFA 22 beta after 50 games and telling you why I think it is a success. Now, before some of you come at me with pitchforks, this is just my opinion and all I ask is that you guys hear me out. It's okay to disagree with me, but keep it constructive and I will happily listen to you. Just before we get into the video, guys, I know this is annoying, but I would appreciate it if you could drop this video a thumbs up, as it does massively help me, and subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any videos like this one. I have a lot of FIFA 22 content coming over the weeks and I'm very excited to share it with you guys. Also, don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside, guys, let's get right into it. So for those of you that have watched this channel for a long time, you'll know I'm not someone that sucks up to EA. I've expressed my massive dislike towards them for as long as I can remember. Of course I'm only joking, guys. Who couldn't like a company that promotes gambling to kids? No, but my point is that I'm not really one to suck up to EA. In fact, I'm quite the opposite. I usually complain about everything they do, so this is a real big change for me. So when I say I think the FIFA 22 beta is good, I genuinely mean it, and I'm going to tell you guys why. So let's start off with the goalkeepers. Goalkeepers were something that was changed by EA for FIFA 22. It was one of their main selling points. They said they had completely rewritten them, and that is genuinely something I can believe because they feel completely different to any other FIFA I've ever played. The new save animations for the goalkeepers are actually very good. They are very realistic and they do add a lot to the game. The positioning of the goalkeepers is also very good, especially when somebody plays a through ball in behind your defensive line. They definitely seem to be in the right positions, and they definitely feel a lot more responsive in those situations. It seems harder to beat goalkeepers from a longer distance, but that is as it should be, you know. A long range shot is a rare thing in football, and it should definitely be a more difficult thing to do than scoring inside the box. But the main thing I've really liked about the goalkeepers so far is that from crosses, corners, set pieces, they seem to be so much more consistent. Like if the ball comes near them, they catch it. They don't just punch it in the air, they just catch it, and it's a comfortable take. Because I don't know about you guys, but that was something that really bugged me about goalkeepers in FIFA 21. You never felt comfortable with them catching the ball, even if it is the easiest, slowest cross in the world. And of course there's going to be some bugs with the goalkeepers where sometimes they won't make a save when they should, or sometimes they'll do something ridiculous when they shouldn't be able to. And I'm going to say something that applies to everything in this video. This game is a beta. A beta is a very old build of a game. Nothing close to what we're going to get when the game is released. So there are going to be little bugs, little errors, but the whole point of a beta is to report back on the general, feel of the game. And I think as a whole for the beta, goalkeepers are very good. Like I said, of course there's a few bugs, but I expect them to be fixed by release. But knowing EA, that might not happen. So moving on, guys, I really liked the defending in the FIFA 22 beta. Again, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I feel like it's a real step in the right direction. To me, it feels like they have massively toned down the defensive AI in the game, which is something I really do like. What I mean by this is that the players that the opponent is not controlling, they seem to do a lot less, which is something that is very much needed. I think the positioning of the defensive AI is great, but they definitely do a lot less blocks. And I think this is something that is very much needed, because if you look back on FIFA 21 and FIFA 20, every time you got around your opponent's box and tried to pass or shoot the ball, a player that is not being controlled by your opponent somehow always sticks their leg out and blocks it. Now, this is something that massively decreased the skill gap and encouraged drop back players, so I think this is a very good change, because I feel like it is much less effective to just sit on the edge of your box and just control your midfielder. And with less defensive AI involvement, I feel like we're going to see a lot more attacking FIFA. When I say they tone down the AI blocks though, I don't mean the ones that are right at them. If you pass a ball right at a player, that deserves to be blocked. I'm on about the passes that are not directly in the path of a computer player on the other team. They will not just stick their leg out and block it. It will go past them as it should. If you want to block that pass, switch to that player and block it yourself. You know, when I was playing the beta, I scored a lot of goals because my opponent would not switch to the correct player and I just ran past him. And I like that because if your opponent is not, you know, switching to the correct player and they're not defending how they should, they deserve to be punished for it. And that goes for me as well. If I'm not defending correctly, I deserve to be punished. And I was on many occasions. Now, in addition to this, I think the manual defending is quite a lot better actually. When you make a tackle, you are much more likely to actually end up with the ball than you were in previous titles. That is something that's bothered me for the longest time, and I'm glad it seems to be improved. Because as much as it's important to tone down the defensive AI, if the manual defending is bad, then oh dear. I also like the changes they've made to second man press. When you hold R1, you get like a green icon above the player that is pressing. It's like a little stamina bar around the triangle. And although this feature has been in previous games, it feels a lot more effective and realistic because obviously with the stamina bar, your players are going to get tired from pressing. So if you hold R1, eventually your player will just tire out and he won't run as fast. But if you use this feature correctly, it can be very easy to close someone down, especially if you know what you're doing. This would be very effective against people that just try and keep possession, because if you use this correctly, you can just go and get the ball off them. There's also been an improvement when you cut passing lanes, because this was terrible in FIFA 21. Basically, if you covered a pass, sometimes your player just would not get the ball, even if you're directly in front of the player that is passing the ball. There is area for improvement there. I don't think it's perfect at the moment, but it definitely feels a lot better. They have also improved physical battles, which means bigger, clunkier centre backs will have more chance of getting the ball off of a smaller player just by using their body. This was something that I'm glad they've done, because in FIFA 21 most people just use fullbacks at centre backs because bigger centre backs with higher physical stats, they just didn't do anything anyway. And it makes up for their low agility and balance, because in FIFA 21 the higher physical stats and the bigger players, it just didn't do anything for you, and in this game it kind of compromises for the fact that they can't really turn very well. So for the first time in a couple of years, it feels like you have a choice when it comes to defenders, because you can go for the bigger, less agile ones which can push players off the ball, or you can go for the more agile but less strong ones that won't be able to push players off the ball as much, but they can turn quicker and nick the ball that way. Now moving on to shooting, this is something I am slightly conflicted about, but I think I do quite like it. Even after playing over 50 games of the beta, I could not find the most effective way of shooting, and I think that is the way it should be. I don't think that one way of shooting should be more effective than another, obviously within reason. So it's nice to have variety with shooting, and obviously you can choose different ways to score. What I mean by this is I've been in the same situation in game multiple times. For example, I've been head on with the goalkeeper. Sometimes I've finessed it and it's gone in. Sometimes I've just done a normal lay shot and it's gone in. And sometimes I've done a low driven shot and it's gone in. It just feels nice to be able to use different methods of shooting and knowing that you're not going to be penalised for it. Obviously this can change, it's only the beta, but for now I quite like it. To be fair though, I do think sometimes the one-on-one finishing is a little bit bad, and I think it should be improved in some aspects, but you know, for the most part I do quite like it. It's more difficult to score, but that's something that's starting to grow on me. It feels more rewarding when you do score a goal. Another thing I didn't really like about shooting, but it wasn't a major problem for me, is that long range shooting is highly ineffective. It seems to be like whenever you shoot from outside the box, your player will just hit it over the bar. Now, I'm not one of these people that thinks, you know, long range goals should be flying in every game, but I do think they should at least be on target a little bit more. Like, it just feels like every time you shoot from far out, it's just a massive waste. But yeah, shooting I'm a little bit conflicted on, but for the most part I do like it. Now regarding attacking AI, we've spoken about defensive AI. I think the attacking AI is quite a lot better in FIFA 22, and that is down to the new tactics that EA have, you know, created. It definitely feels like the tactics you choose have a massive impact on the behavior of the AI. For example, if you have direct passing as your setting for chance creation, it feels like your players push up a lot more. They're desperate to get onto the edge of the box and they're desperate to receive the ball in those dangerous areas. Whereas if you use a setting like possession, your players don't hang around on the edge of the box so much, they come closer, they provide more support, and it's a lot easier to knock the ball around. Now, I know some of these tactics have been a thing for a couple of years, but it definitely feels like it has more of an effect on your playstyle this year. I can definitely feel a difference between all of the tactics. So that is something I really like about FIFA 22 because it feels like there is more variety in attack. Moving on to dribbling and skill moves, this is something that I feel has been massively improved this game. If you have like a clunkier player, for example Lukaku, it feels like they stumble around a little bit more, but their physical stats are enough to keep them on the ball. So although their dribbling is not as precise, it feels like they can make up for it with their physical stats just by pushing defenders off around them, a bit like real life. And with smaller players like Messi, because they're not as strong, they are more prone to being pushed off the ball, but their dribbling is a lot more tight and precise. And you can use their higher agility to your advantage by wriggling around those bigger, clunkier players. Now for the skill move aspect of dribbling, this is something I feel like is so much better, and that's mainly because of the new first touch skill moves. Basically, you can perform a skill move command such as a heel to heel flick before your player receives the ball, and the moment they receive the ball on the first touch, they will perform that skill move. This is very effective with things like roulettes and heel to heel flicks, as you can quickly take it around the player. On top of this, skill moves feel a lot more responsive, a lot more controlled, and there is a lot less instances where I'll perform a skill move but my player won't actually do it. So yeah, I actually really like the changes to dribbling and skilling. Moving on to passing, I don't really have a lot to say about passing. It kind of just feels the same as usual, but maybe a bit more consistent with shorter passes. Because of the toned down AI defense that we talked about earlier, it seems a lot easier to knock the ball around, and even if your passes aren't pinpoint accurate or don't have a lot of power, they can still make it to your player. On top of this, longer passes and crosses seem to be harder to hit correctly, and they are more prone to error, which is something that really bugged me about FIFA 21 because it felt like, longer range passes were actually easier and more successful than shorter passes, and it doesn't feel like that's the case this year. And I've used players, such as 98 Messi that they've given us in the beta with very high passing stats, and it does feel the same. Now moving on to gameplay speed, it does feel a little bit slower than FIFA 21, but I actually quite like it because it does feel more realistic. Now I will say this one is down to personal preference because I know a lot of people that prefer the fast arcadey games, and I know quite a lot of people that enjoy the slower, more methodical ones. For me, it feels like it has that nice balance where it's not too fast but it's not too slow, and obviously you can speed up the speed of the game with things like explosive sprint where you can have a short but rapid burst of pace. But yeah, gameplay speed is down to personal opinion, but I do quite like it. Now lastly, the gameplay does feel a lot heavier, but not in a bad way. I don't really know how to explain this one, like you'll probably understand if you've played it, but what I mean is you can feel the weight of the players on the pitch, like they don't skate around, and you can really feel the difference between each player. Like a player like Neymar feels really light and agile, but a Lukaku feels like he does stomp around the place. And I know you're probably thinking this is going to be another year of short, fast and agile players, but the bigger players really do feel like they can make up for their lack of pace and agility with their strength and power. So because there is a lot more emphasis on, strength and physicality and heaviness, it definitely feels a lot more balanced, and I really like that. But yeah, that's all I really have to say on the new features of FIFA 22 and why I quite like the beta. Some things that I didn't really like are the referee decisions. I feel like they just never give anything at all, like even really bad tackles just don't get punished. I don't think I got one free kick in the whole of the beta, and I'm not even joking. Now, I don't mind it for like small little fouls because it does improve the flow of the game, but I'm talking about like stonewall fouls just don't seem to be given. I don't know if EA are going to address that, but I do think it's something that does need to be looked at. The other thing I wanted to say that I didn't really like is I don't like heading in this game. It feels very inaccurate, and you just seem to have wasted a chance if you cross the ball and go for a header. But again, I don't want headers to be too overpowered, but at the same time I feel like at the moment they're just not good enough at all. There is also some like frame rate issues in the beta, and I'm sure this will be fixed by launch, but it's like after you go into the second half of the game, every time you go for like a challenge between two players, the game just seems to lag a hell of a lot, and I'm not talking about like internet lag or anything. The game starts like stuttering. That is a big issue, but I feel like that should be fixed. But yeah, that's really all I have to say, guys. This is why I think the FIFA 22 beta as a whole was was a success. But yeah, that is it for the video, guys. If you have enjoyed it, I would appreciate it if you could drop this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are new so you never miss out on any FIFA 22 content, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you are notified when a video is posted. And with all that aside, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you all later. Peace.